Oh, it is still July 26, 2021. This nightmare unfolding, it's not now happening on a daily basis. It's hourly. Hourly. Look what they're playing in Australia. This ad.
The Victorian government has launched a new advertising campaign, sternly warning Sydney-siders to stay home and not travel south. The ad is now running in prime TV slots across New South Wales. It includes voiceovers telling viewers of new restrictions in place for extreme risk zones. It goes on to warn New South Wales residents that they cannot get a permit to enter the state.
If you're in New South Wales, you cannot get a permit to enter Victoria. If you try to enter, you could be fined unless you have an exemption. Strict exemptions apply.
Victoria's opposition has labelled the campaign as mean-spirited as Sydney grapples with its Delta outbreak. The Andrews government has defended it, saying they are regularly run in other states. And stay tuned to Sky News Today. We'll bring you the latest press conference featuring Dan Andrews live when it happens as Melbourne looks to exit its 185th day of lockdown since the pandemic began.
Wow. Well, is that a defense? Other states have run that ad, and therefore we can too. It's still rather mean-spirited, or does it have the spirit of tyranny in it? I think it's time to listen to Say Something. Vanessa, Valentine. Oh, this song. Yep, it's on my music playlist. I love it. I hope everybody pays attention to what Vanessa is saying, who lives in Melbourne. She came out with this song early on. This was posted October 18, 2020. Well, not so early on the pandemic, but Australia, you have led the way. You have shown us what is coming to all of us.
Your silence is deafening. Their presence is...
I didn't start it where it was supposed to start. Sorry, Vanessa.
I wanna walk outside past 9. I wanna play live music and feel alive, but your silence is deafening. Their presence is threatening. So say something. Say something. And people call me brave for speaking out and speaking up. It's not that I am brave, it's just that I don't give a fuck. Why should I care about the things that I say? I won't stay silent, I won't be quiet. And why should I care about the things that I say? I was never cool enough to get any real airplay anyway. They wanna walk outside past 9. They wanna play live music and feel alive, but your silence is deafening, and their presence is threatening. So say something. Say something. And I'm not scared of losing fake friends online, but I'm fucking terrified of sitting back and watching my real friends die. They wanna walk outside past 9. They wanna play live music and feel alive. So smile for the cameras, cause everybody's watching. And Melbourne, you're a big shot, and everybody's laughing. Now everybody knows your name, and everybody knows your name. But your silence is deafening, and their presence is threatening. So say something. Say something. Say something. Missing you, Melbourne.
Say something. Let's watch this again. Let's watch this again. October 2020. Great song. That's when the Tyranny came in. Melbourne. Everybody knows your name. And smile for the camera, 'cause everybody's watching. Be just unreal. And don't seek any truth. Oh, this life.
The Victorian government has launched a new advertising campaign, sternly warning Sydney-siders to stay home and not travel south. The ad is now running in prime TV slots across New South Wales. It includes voiceovers telling viewers of new restrictions in place for extreme risk zones. It goes on to warn New South Wales residents that they cannot get a permit to enter the state.
If you're in New South Wales, you cannot get a permit to enter Victoria. If you try to enter, you could be fined unless you have an exemption. Strict exemptions apply.
Do you not see this as purposeful? You know, the way the voiceover is, that tone, that don't you even think of it. That's tyranny. That's tyranny. And this is happening in a country with such low numbers. That is what is truly amazing. Low numbers. Boy, they jack them up in other countries. And we're going to feel it. Oh boy. What's happening here in California? Listen to this guy today.
And hospitalization rates in this state because too many people have chosen to live with this virus. We're at a point in this epidemic, this pandemic, where choice, individuals' choice not to get vaccinated is now impacting the rest of us in a profound and devastating and deadly way. That choice has led to an increase in case rates, growing concern around increase in death rates, and self-evidently around hospitalization rates, not just here in the state of California that has a 5.3% positivity rate, that's half of Texas, roughly a third of states like Florida, but across the rest of the nation. We're mindful of our responsibility to do more and to do better. We're mindful of our responsibility to lead by example as well. California was the first state to do a stay-at-home order. It wasn't without its critics. Continues to address the issues by asserting itself, this state, by leaning in. And we will continue to do that as we advance today's new cause, and that's to address the concerns we have in our healthcare facilities throughout the state of California. But as it relates to leading by example, 246,000 Californians are state employees. 246,000 Californians should be vaccinated, and if they're not vaccinated and cannot verify that they've been vaccinated, we are requiring that they get tested. California is committed to vaccination, verification, and or testing on a weekly basis. We're not stopping just with state employees. Today, we're also announcing partnerships that include those like Kaiser, private sector now stepping up, organizations representing physicians and dentists, dialysis clinics stepping up, private sector clinics are committing to the same. In healthcare settings, they're committed not only to verification of vaccines, but also testing, and that testing cadence will increase to twice a week in high-risk, highly vulnerable settings. What are those? Well, not surprising, acute care settings, skilled nursing facilities would be among them. Our application implementation of these new requirements that will go out under a health order in the state of California begin on August 9th and are implemented through August 23rd. And we hope this example of public and private leadership as it relates to vaccine verifications, vaccine mandates, and or mandated testing 1 to 2 times a week with also commensurate PPP, or rather PPE obligations as it relates to protective gear and N95 respirator masks as an example, will lead to others to replicate this example in the private sector. You're seeing that in private businesses and enterprises, from Bay Area businesses, the bar businesses that are deciding to come together and require some form of verification. We encourage that in the private sector across the spectrum, not just in these healthcare settings. But as it relates to healthcare settings in the state of California, dental settings, doctors, all of these other acute centers, as well as congregate centers that include jails, homeless shelters, we are now asking for that verification, no longer requiring, or rather encouraging, self-attestation. This is a requirement to prove you've been vaccinated, and if you have not, you'll be tested.
Now I'm going to play a few more minutes because, wow, he gets rather ideological, but then says this is not about ideology, or it's not partisan, it's not political. Oh, but it really is. So you notice, have you listened? So we've got vaccine passports, mandates for vaccines, and he threw in Agenda 2030, the public-private partnerships. Wow, that was pretty loaded. And, of course, threw in the unvaccinated. Okay. It's all our fault.
And so we are sincere in our belief and desire that we need to step things up at this stage of the pandemic. Our projections are sobering. Our projections over the course of the next number of weeks will show a significant increase in hospitalizations if we continue down this path. Our projections will put additional pressure on systems like Kaiser's and systems all throughout the state. Here's the good news.
There's good news. Californians, how about asking, for that science that backs up his claims? Americans, how about asking anything? Hey, Americans, say something. Say something. Oh, no, just smile for the camera.
Last week, we saw a 16% increase in the number of people getting their first dose or receiving a J&J vaccine, a 16% increase in vaccinations last week. First doses representing a little over 255,000 shots administered. We're seeing as well an increase in people getting vaccinated in what we refer to as the Healthy Place Index Quartile 1. And forgive me, I lost 99% of you, but for the 1% that understand what I'm talking about, that's the most vulnerable zip codes in the state of California. Those are the communities most at risk, the communities most impacted by this pandemic. That's around our equity frame, our equity metric. We have actually seen a 7-week consistent increase relative to other quartiles of vaccination rates, and that also includes the Latino community, of which we have seen a very modest uptick, an encouraging uptick in vaccination rates as well. Look, I am not naive, and I'll close, that there are many people still vaccine hesitant. That's why the state put $40 million up. We announced this last week in a CalVax grant program to encourage family practices, family physicians, to have a private setting where they can address that anxiety and that hesitancy. But we are exhausted, respectfully, exhausted by the ideological prism that too many Americans are living under. We're exhausted by the Ron Johnsons and the Tucker Carlsons. We're exhausted by the Marjorie Taylor Greens. We're exhausted by the right-wing echo chamber that has been perpetuating misinformation around the vaccine and its efficacy and safety. We're exhausted by the politicalization of this pandemic, and that includes mask wearing that has been equated to the Holocaust. It's disgraceful, it's unconstitutional, it's unconscionable, and it needs to be called out.
Oh, thank God, man. Everybody just wants to move to California because your governor has the truth. The Democrats have the truth. All those on the red team, well, they're just spreading disinformation. Oh, wait, don't you have like a real explosion of people moving out of your state? That's right.
Recently, it is being called out, and I want to acknowledge that. And I want to applaud particularly Republican leaders that have had the courage to call that out. And I hope more and more will do the same. It's a choice to live with this virus.
It's choice to live with this virus that is so fatal that, WebMD, let's see, most people who get it have mild illness, and they might feel lousy. But you should be able to rest at home, recover fully, without a trip to the hospital. And, yeah, it's kind of strange. This is the recovery rate. Yeah, even though this is also on the CDC website, I'm afraid to say it on YouTube because, well, yeah, they clearly don't want people to know what they actually know. Well, that's weird, right? CDC is not disinformation. WebMD is certainly not disinformation. So I should be able to comfortably say this. That's your recovery rate of this. Well, get vaccinated, okay? How come we never, ever, ever hear anyone talking about that natural immunity? Never hear about make sure that you strengthen your immune system. Why? That's weird, isn't it? Where'd the flu go? Where did all other diseases go? I don't know. But you guys on the red team, you're clearly the enemy. You get it? All of us unvaccinated, the enemy. And for all of you who want to get out of this country, getting hard.
And a warning now for summer travelers. If you're in a rush for a new passport, you may be out of luck. Scammers forced the State Department to shut down its online bookings for urgent appointments. And CBS's Meg Oliver has the details.
Tonight, long lines at U.S. passport offices as travelers rush to get their passports after the State Department temporarily shut down the agency's emergency appointment booking site.
This is my one and only chance. My flight's in 2 days.
The State Department says third-party actors are using bots to book all available online appointments. Some are selling them for as high as $3,000 to applicants with urgent travel needs.
I am freaking out.
Kelsey and Heston Rankin applied for passports in May, but only one has arrived. Their non-refundable flight to Mexico leaves in 2 weeks.
I call every day to try and get an answer to get the same runaround that, we can only push it a week before your travel. A week before your travel is kind of cutting it very close.
In the last 2 years, the couple suffered the heartbreaking loss of a stillborn and 2 miscarriages.
We just need to get a break, get a mental reset, celebrate our anniversary.
The State Department admits they have a staffing issue, and they're scrambling to complete an extraordinary backlog of passport applications. The current wait time for a passport is up to 18 weeks.
During the pandemic, they sent their people home. And right now, we're over 1.6 million passports in backlog.
So good luck getting out of the country, getting that passport. Have you noticed that everything you want to do today is like a major hassle? Sometimes you just don't even meet success. You know, I was reading this article. I haven't read the whole thing because he went into evidence of the massive lying that is taking place, cascade of consequences. There was truth and there was untruth. And if you clung to the truth, even against the whole world, you were not mad. George Orwell, 1984. But you were exhausted. And people will agree with you only if they already agree with you. You do not change people's minds. Frank Zappa. How come people changed my mind? What's going on here? Orwell and Zappa's words of wisdom have never been truer than they are today. The level of untruth proliferated by the government, mainstream media, central bankers, military leaders, big tech, big pharma, big corp, and billionaire oligarchs has reached prolific heights. We are lost in a whirlwind of lies, destined to grow into a tornado of tragedy and ultimately result in a cascade of consequences. That cascade, many people are already feeling. Yes. I'll link below to the article if you want to read it. I was going to read it, but yeah. All of this driven by political parties, moral versus immoral, black versus white, criminals versus police, normal versus abnormal, capitalist versus communist, Federal Reserve versus the people, vax or sheep versus natural immunity. Oh my God. Hardly ever see that anymore. Realists, authoritarians versus freedom fighters, critical thinkers versus non-thinking believers. Belief, belief, belief stops thinking. Privileged elite versus common men and women, citizens versus traitors, powerful versus powerless, evil versus good. It all comes down to the lie versus the truth. People believe the narrative they have been conditioned to believe. No quantity of facts, data, or rational arguments will change their minds. You know, there was a time, decades ago, I remember, my mind was changed by facts. People did change my mind, thank God. But now, you know, it's remarkable that, you know, the liars double down on their lies. And when they can't get what they want, they become vicious. I didn't like his tone. I don't like these attacks against all those who are not Democrat, who are referred to as right-wing, or Trump supporters, or Republicans, or... There's an awful lot of Democrats in California. So, if there's still the unvaccinated crowd, do you think every one of them is a Republican? No. There are some Democrats, I believe. I do believe. I mean, there has to be some out there that still are able to think. And maybe, actually, they have care about their own health, that they've decided to do the research themselves in order to make the decision whether or not to line up. Don't you think? There's got to be. Anyway, we're in a really bad place, and these are the people who, because of their ideology and their lies, that now they double down and speak in a rather angry or a vicious tone, like Ivy in Alabama. Oh, she's a Republican. The Republicans got their marching orders. There are not two teams. There's one. there's one. And that one team is coming against the people. So, why is it that we hear this kind of, you better get, dare I say, you better get that V, or else, when you have these numbers as a recovery rate? Are there Americans still that don't understand that this is the recovery rate? This is on the sites that are the authoritative sources. Well, because we do have so many who have given up thinking, we're going down. There's literally nothing that can be done. Yeah. They convinced an enormous portion of the world's population, that a non-lethal virus for anyone under age 80 in decent health, it was such a threat, they agreed to be locked down, masked for a year, still agreeing, destroying the global economy, putting tens of millions out of work, bankrupting hundreds of thousands of small businesses, and benefiting authoritarian government tyrants, mega corporations, criminal cabal, who stole the presidential election for senile, which clearly he is, hair-sniffing, angry gaffe machine functioning as a Trojan donkey. You are the donkeys, by the way, Democrats. To implement the Build Back Better New World Order, World Economic Forum plan. You will have nothing, and you will be happy. So it's scary to see how many adults are refusing to get the information they need to understand what is happening. We hear Biden, we hear Pelosi, build back better, build back better. Well, that's their marching orders. The World Economic Forum, the Davos elite, gave them the order. Keep saying build back better. It's the New World Order. Ah, but you're a conspiracy theorist, Carol. All links are below.